The war did not end in 1945. The guns fell silent. The cities stopped burning. The uniforms were folded away and the banners torn down. But the war itself, its ideas, its inventions, its technological momentum, did not stop. It seeped forward, quietly, invisibly, into the world that followed. Every time you board an airplane. Every time a doctor reads a medical scan. Every time a satellite locks onto your position. Every time a computer processes information faster than a human ever could. You are living with World War II. Not the battles. Not the speeches. Not the ideology. The technology. World War II was not just the most destructive conflict in human history. It was the most accelerated technological experiment humanity has ever conducted. Entire fields of science were forced to mature in a matter of years instead of decades. Ideas that would have taken generations were dragged into existence by desperation. What emerged from the war did not stay on the battlefield. It reshaped the modern world. Long before the first shot was fired, the 20th century was already restless. Electricity had spread. Radios filled homes. Cars rolled off assembly lines. Airplanes crossed oceans. But progress moved cautiously, constrained by cost, tradition, and skepticism. War removed those constraints. When survival becomes the objective, hesitation disappears. Governments stop asking whether something is practical and start asking whether it can be done at all. Budgets become irrelevant. Failure becomes unacceptable. And time becomes the enemy. World War II compressed innovation. The conflict forced nations to solve problems that had never been solved before, at scales never attempted before, under pressures never experienced before. The solutions they found did not vanish with victory or defeat. They became foundations. The first of these foundations rose from the sky. Before the war, aviation was impressive but limited. Commercial flight existed, but it was slow, expensive, and dangerous. Aircraft were fragile. Navigation was unreliable. Engines failed frequently. Most planes flew low, followed landmarks, and prayed for clear weather. War changed everything. Military necessity demanded aircraft that could fly farther, faster, higher, and in all conditions. Bombers had to cross continents. Fighters had to intercept them. Transport planes had to carry troops and supplies across oceans. To make this possible, aviation technology advanced at a brutal pace. Engines became more powerful and more reliable. Aerodynamics were refined. Pressurized cabins were developed so crews could operate at high altitude without oxygen deprivation. Navigation systems improved dramatically, using radio beacons and later radar to guide aircraft even through darkness and storms. Jet propulsion, once a theoretical curiosity, became reality. Germany flew the first operational jet fighter. Britain fielded jet aircraft before the war ended. The United States followed quickly. The jet age was born not in peace, but in desperation. After the war, these technologies did not disappear. Military pilots became airline pilots. Military airfields became civilian airports. Navigation systems designed to guide bombers were adapted to guide passenger planes. Modern commercial aviation, safe, fast, global, exists because wartime engineers were forced to solve problems that peacetime industry had avoided. When you fly today, you are riding the aftershock of wartime necessity. But the skies were only one domain transformed. The war also changed how humans see. Before World War II, seeing the enemy meant eyes, binoculars, and guesswork. Fog, darkness, and distance limited perception. Commanders often fought blind. That changed with radar. Radar existed before the war, but it was crude and unreliable. World War II forced its rapid development. Britain, facing potential invasion, invested heavily in early warning radar systems along its coast. These stations could detect incoming aircraft long before they were visible. Radar saved Britain during the Battle of Britain. It allowed a smaller air force to be in the right place at the right time. It turned air defense from reaction into anticipation. Other nations quickly followed. Radar expanded beyond aircraft detection. It tracked ships, submarines, artillery shells, even weather systems. The technology reshaped warfare, and then reshaped peace. After the war, radar found civilian uses everywhere. Air traffic control relies on it. Weather forecasting depends on it. Maritime navigation uses it to avoid collisions. Speed detection, astronomical observation, even medical imaging owe something to radar's development. The ability to see beyond human senses, to detect, predict, and measure, became part of daily life. The war also changed how humans treat the body. World War II produced casualties on a scale medicine had never faced. Millions of wounded soldiers overwhelmed hospitals. Doctors had to operate under fire, with limited supplies, on bodies shattered by new weapons. This pressure transformed medicine. Antibiotics moved from experimental to essential. Penicillin, discovered earlier but produced in tiny quantities, was mass-produced during the war. It turned infections that once killed routinely into survivable conditions. Blood transfusion techniques advanced rapidly. Blood banks were established. Preservation methods improved. Trauma surgery evolved under battlefield conditions, refining techniques that saved lives long after the war ended. Plastic surgery advanced not for cosmetic reasons, but to reconstruct faces torn apart by shrapnel and burns. Rehabilitation medicine developed to help amputees walk, work, and live independently. Even mental health changed. Shell shock, later called post-traumatic stress disorder, forced medicine to acknowledge psychological injury as real and debilitating. Modern emergency medicine, trauma care, antibiotics, and surgical techniques all trace direct lineage to wartime necessity. Hospitals today still operate with systems refined during global conflict. But the war did more than save lives. It taught humanity how to destroy on an unprecedented scale, and then forced it to confront the consequences. No technology embodies this more starkly than nuclear power. The atomic bomb was not inevitable. It was a race driven by fear. Fear that Nazi Germany might build it first. Fear that delay meant annihilation. The Manhattan Project united scientists, engineers, and industrial capacity in secrecy and urgency unmatched before or since. It compressed decades of theoretical physics into a few frantic years. The bomb worked. Its devastation ended the war in the Pacific and opened an era of terror that has never fully closed. But nuclear technology did not remain confined to weapons. After the war, nuclear research expanded into energy production. Reactors designed for plutonium production were adapted to generate electricity. Nuclear medicine emerged, using radioactive isotopes to diagnose and treat disease. The same physics that destroyed cities now lights homes and saves lives. This dual legacy, destruction and utility, is a recurring theme of wartime technology. The war also reshaped how information moves. Before World War II, communication was slow, fragmented, and vulnerable. Messages traveled by wire, radio, or courier. Encryption existed, but it was limited. War demanded secrecy and speed. This drove advances in cryptography, communication security, and information processing. Code breaking became a science. Machines like the British bomb and the American-built computers that followed were created to process information faster than human minds could manage alone. These machines were not computers as we recognize them today, but they were ancestors. They automated logic. They handled data at scale. They proved that machines could assist human thinking. After the war, this idea exploded. Veterans of wartime code breaking and logistics became pioneers of computing. Governments and universities funded research that had proven its value under fire. Modern computers, the internet, digital encryption, and data processing all owe debts to wartime necessity. Even the idea of global positioning, knowing where you are at all times, has roots in wartime navigation and missile guidance systems. Satellites were not built to help people find coffee shops. They were built to guide weapons and monitor enemies. GPS emerged from Cold War extensions of World War II technologies. Today it guides cars, planes, ships, phones, and emergency services. You navigate the world using systems born from conflict. The war also transformed manufacturing itself. Before the war, production was often specialized, slow, and labor-intensive. World War II demanded speed, scale, and flexibility. Factories were reorganized to produce enormous quantities of standardized equipment. Assembly lines became more efficient. Quality control improved. Logistics networks expanded. This was not just industrial output. It was systems thinking. The war taught nations how to mobilize entire economies, coordinate supply chains, and integrate science with manufacturing. These lessons carried into peacetime. Modern mass production, global logistics, just-in-time manufacturing, all reflect wartime innovations refined for civilian use. Even workplace safety, ergonomics, and efficiency studies advanced during the war as factories sought to maximize output without collapsing their workforce. The consumer economy that followed the war was built on foundations laid during total mobilization. The war even changed how humans interact with space beyond Earth. Rocketry advanced dramatically during World War II. Germany's WWII rocket was the first human-made object to reach the edge of space. It was a weapon designed to terrorize cities. But the technology did not die with the Reich. After the war, scientists and engineers were absorbed into American and Soviet programs. Rockets designed for destruction became tools for exploration. The space race grew directly from wartime missile technology. Satellites, weather monitoring, global communications, and space exploration all trace lineage to weapons built under dictatorship and fear. Even the moon landing carried DNA from wartime research. The war also altered materials science. New alloys were developed to withstand heat, stress, and corrosion. Synthetic materials replaced scarce natural ones. Plastics, synthetic rubber, and composites expanded rapidly due to wartime shortages. These materials became staples of post-war life. From clothing to packaging, electronics to vehicles, the material world was reshaped by inventions born from necessity. Even everyday conveniences, microwaves, for example, trace origins to radar research. But perhaps the most profound legacy of World War II technology is not any single invention. It is the way humanity learned to innovate under pressure. The war demonstrated that when survival is at stake, barriers fall. Disciplines merge. Scientists work with soldiers. Engineers collaborate with doctors. Governments invest without hesitation. This model, big science, big industry, big coordination, became permanent. It fueled the Cold War. It drives modern research programs. It shapes how humanity responds to crises, from pandemics to climate change. The war taught the world that technology could change everything, fast. That lesson did not fade. It also left a warning. Technology is neutral only in theory. In practice, it reflects the intentions of those who wield it. Radar can guide planes safely, or direct bombers. Nuclear energy can power cities, or erase them. Computing can connect humanity, or surveil it. World War II forced humanity to confront this reality in blood and fire. The technologies that shape modern life were not born in laboratories of curiosity alone. They were forged in fear, urgency, and desperation. They saved lives. They ended wars. They also took lives on an unimaginable scale. When we use them today, we inherit that history. Beyond the battlefield, the war never truly ended. It became infrastructure. It became medicine. It became communication. It became power. It became the world we live in. And whether we acknowledge it or not, every modern convenience carries a shadow, a reminder that progress is often born not from peace, but from crisis. The challenge of our time is not to reject that legacy. It is to decide what we do with it.